What do you miss about hockey? Is it taping up a stick before the first game of a new season? Seeing the puck ripple the net on an overtime winning goal? Maybe you even missed the sweaty smell of a decades-old locker room. For everyone involved in Ontario University hockey, all of those things haven't been around for nearly 2 years. Student athletes, many whose personalities have surrounded their sport for years, lost a staple in their lives, while coaches spend time focusing on the future rather than just the next shift. When the puck drops on November 3rd, it will have been nearly 600 days since any OUA regular season action had taken place. We masked up, we got our shots, and now finally, we're getting back to the ice. Welcome to the 2021-2022 OUA hockey season.
Have finally won a national championship in U-Sport women's hockey as they pour off the bench. Have a listen to this crowd.
Welcome to OUA Hockey Zone. I'm your host, Ben Steiner, alongside David Ciss, and our reporter, Matt Davison, is in the field. We are thrilled to bring you a preview show ahead of the first OUA hockey season since 2019-20. And while the rest of U Sports has gotten started in the last few weeks, the OUA drops the puck on November 3rd.
It's been a very long time since anyone actually took in an OUA regular season hockey game. To find the last goal, you have to go all the way back to March 7th, 2020. When the Guelph Griffins won the Queen's Cup in triple overtime, coming through a goal from former Kingston Frontenac, Ted Nickel. We've got a big show in store for you today as we preview the men's and women's hockey seasons in Ontario University Athletics. We'll go through the big teams and names to watch in 2021-2022 and bring you inside the University of Toronto men's hockey locker room where we speak to David Thompson about dealing with adversity.
With the return of OUA hockey this season, things will look a little bit different than we've seen in past years. And for more on the differences, we go to our in-studio reporter, Ben Botelho.
Thank you, Ben. You are certainly right. There are going to be some very large differences in the way OUA hockey looks this season. For this year in men's hockey, we say goodbye to the East and West divisions and welcome in the East and Far East and West divisions, while in the women's teams will be played in the East and West divisions and rather in a single table structure. We're going to see a lot of interesting division rivalries, and it should be an incredible return to university hockey.
A lot has changed since 2020, with 2 graduating classes and 2 incoming classes of recruits as well. Really, some of these teams are nothing like the ones we watched leave the ice back in March of 2020. With new faces around the rinks, you can tell right away which teams are gunning to win championships this season.
With so many teams in the mix, it's been a bit tough to narrow it down to our top 5 teams heading into the season. But for me, I've got to go with the Toronto Varsity Blues as my leading team, but it could be a very close race in the regular season and beyond. So let's get right into our top 5.
Okay, David, I think you've got to slow down a little bit with the Toronto Varsity Blues there. Sure, they have some great players, but they couldn't get it done in the 2019-20 playoffs and just don't look like a winning side to me this season. I've got to go with the Guelph Griffins, bringing in a former pro like Lucas Chiodo, who was playing for the FASA Falcons in the Alps HL last season, among other top OHLers joining that team. And you see on the board now, Guelph Griffins, Varsity Blues, we have them 1 and 2. They are definitely going to be some contenders this season.
You know, I do like what the Guelph Griffins have done in the offseason. I mean, they brought in some really solid defensemen, including former Steelheads blue liner Duncan Penman and newly graduated Moncton Wildcat Tristan DeJong. Both of them are joining former Steelheads captain Liam Ham on the blue line. I really think that blue line is going to be causing a lot of trouble for opposing attackers, but I just don't think they have that firepower to take that next step.
Guelph Griffins, Toronto Varsity Blues, they're our top 2 picks to finish atop the OUA this season. But we've got our top 5 on both the men's and women's sides. A look at which teams could bring home the Queen's Cup and Macaw Cups this season.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, the Toronto Varsity Blues are the best team in the OUA. But the Guelph Griffins are pretty close behind them. I could also see the Ryerson Rams, Queens Gales, and the Ontario Tech Ridgebacks making a run for it this year on the men's side.
You know, one team that I think is missing from that is the U Ottawa GGs, led by head coach Patrick Grandmatier. He has confidence behind the bench, and they should easily be in the top 5 after bringing in QMJHL stars such as Peter Strasses to go alongside a returning core they came within a shot of winning the Queen's Cup back in 2019.
Look, Ottawa has an impressive roster, but I just don't think that they have the same firepower that the Rams have. I mean, they brought in Jeremiah Addison from the St. FX X-Men, and I know he's had a lot of injuries that have derailed his career a little bit, but he's undoubtedly going to be one of the top players in the OUA this year, joining a young group of rookies and an experienced defensive core led by former San Jose Sharks draft pick Mark Shoemaker. It's pretty clear to me that the Rams will be a contender this year for sure.
Mark Shoemaker has certainly got a lot of experience on the Rams, but I do think that you were spot on with the Queens Gales in your top 5. They put a good challenge to the Rams in preseason hockey just last week, and good challenge with players like 2014 NHL draft pick Patrick Sanvito on the blue line, alongside a guy like Jacob Rahaney, who manned the power play with the Kingston Frontenacs and Shane Wright last season. Shifting over to the women's side of the OUA, the Toronto Varsity Blues are coming off a Macaw Cup championship in 2019-20, but it was not totally certain they were going to do that. Neck and neck with the York Lions and the Ryerson Rams right down to the final game, we saw some exceptional performances from these teams when they were last on the ice.
It's been a long time since any of these teams have actually seen any regular season hockey. With 2 classes of outgoing players and 2 classes of rookies, it's really looking like it's going to be another close race once again, as teams are really just anxious to hit the ice and compete once again.
With everything so close, it's hard to narrow things down to just 5 teams, but we're doing that here on OUA Hockey Zone. Ben Steiner alongside David Ciss. And for me, the York Lions have to be in the top 5, and they've set themselves up very nicely to take it one step further and win the Macaw Cup after, of course, losing to Toronto in the 2020 final.
You know, for me, it's going to be tough to see the York Lions actually take that next step. While they had a great recruiting class, adding players such as Abby Hooper, I mean, they had a bit of a tough offseason. They've lost senior goaltender Lauren Dubuis, as well as blue liner Taylor Davison, who has actually now joined the Toronto Six. With all the changes for the Lions, they won't have that firepower they need to win a title. So because of that, I could actually see the Brock Badgers taking it all in at the end of the season. Now, don't get me wrong. With Dan Church behind the bench, the Lions are fully capable of challenging.
You know, I see Brock as certainly a good team, but I think that the recruiting class out at York, with such an established coach behind the bench, the Lions are still going to be the favorites in the OUA this season.
Yeah, but I mean, with Brock, you have someone like Cassidy Maplethorpe leading the way, and I think they're really going to make a push for it this year. She's already one of the best goal scorers in the OUA, and she has that unique ability to make those around her better. I mean, when you have someone like that, she comes in at 5'6", forward, studying medical sciences as her major. I mean, she's smart on the ice and off the ice. She knows what she's doing. She makes those around her better, and I just think that with her leading her team, they're going to really make a run for it.
19 points in 2019-20. She's certainly a very good player. But I would say the defending champs, U of T, could also be right in the mix, as they made the most of their extended offseason, bringing in some new talent on a roster that already has players like Taylor Trussler and now goaltender Jessica Vance transferring in from the University of Saskatchewan, who were right in the mix in Canada West last season as well. It's definitely going to be a fantastic year for the Toronto Varsity Blues, who have an established coach behind their bench as well, much like the York Lions in Vicky Sonohara.
Look, obviously, I think this year is going to be as close as ever. And like we saw in 2019, the Rams are a dangerous team, especially in the playoffs. Led by head coach Lisa Haley, the Rams are just a team that never take their foot off the gas pedal. They know how to outwork the opposition, and they have some talented players to go along with it, led by Olivia Giardetti. However, I really think it's the way that this team gels together as a unit that could actually propel them to a championship victory. While Brock, Toronto, and the Rams are my top 3, I wouldn't be shocked to see the York Lions or Queen Gales challenge as well.
If any other sports are a bit of a hint in 2021-22, the OUA women's hockey season will be filled with parity and excitement. But all we can do for now is take a solid guess who might take home the Macaw Cup come the spring. We'll be right back after this with forward thinking, taking a bit of a closer look at the talented student athletes that make up the OUA.
My name is Tanner Gustafson Walker.
My name is Kaytrona Cormier.
My name is Amari Young.
My name is Lorma Mateo, and I was a 2021 Milk to Go ambassador.
And I was also a 2021 Milk to Go Sport Brand Ambassador.
And I was a 2021 Brand Ambassador for Milk to Go.
I was a 2021 Milk to Go Sport Brand Ambassador.
I wanted to become a Milk to Go Brand Ambassador because I wanted to share my knowledge with others about the importance of staying active, recovering, and refueling, especially during these tough times.
I wanted to become a Milk to Go Sport Brand Ambassador because I was already familiar with the product, and I really wanted to share this knowledge that I had with it with my friends and family. I was also really excited to work with this great company in a business setting.
I enjoy marketing as well as promoting health and wellness in sports among athletes. And Milk to Go gave me this amazing opportunity to do this.
Incorporating Milk to Go, but also promoting health and wellness was something I really wanted to do because now more than ever, people need that little push.
Some of the most enjoyable aspects about being a part of this journey was learning about the products as well as being creative and innovative.
The most enjoyable part was definitely making the content. I had a lot of fun coming up with different creative ideas and different ways to portray physical activities to the public.
Filming is a lot of fun, getting creative, finding ideas and putting them to action. That's something I love doing and I've been doing for a while, so it's just something I really enjoyed.
You are your own boss when doing these things, so you get to incorporate your interests and have fun with it.
I would like to say thank you to our sponsor, Milk to Go, for selecting me as a 2021 Brand Ambassador. It was an amazing experience.
A very big thank you goes out to OUA Sport and Milk to Go for selecting me as one of the Sport Brand Ambassadors.
I truly appreciate all the efforts that have gone into making this program a possibility, especially during these tough times.
Being able to represent the product has been a true honor, and I'm glad that I was chosen as an ambassador.
Hi, I'm Kyle Boor for the Rams Hockey, and you're watching OUA Hockey Zone.
Welcome back into OUA Hockey Zone, and while competition has yet to begin for OUA teams, we've still seen some exceptional stories come from OUA student athletes, including just last week when Toronto Varsity Blues goaltender Alex Bishop found himself at Scotiabank Arena playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Ottawa Senators. Our reporter Ben Botelho has more.
For many people who don't know about Canadian university sports, they often think that the game is played at a lower level and that any player in U Sports would not be able to step up into an NHL game. Although the NHL is a dream for many, only a select few goaltenders get a chance while also being a student athlete. Just last week, University of Toronto netminder Alex Bishop got a last-minute call to be the emergency goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs in their game against the Ottawa Senators. A few days later, York goalie Brendan Bonello heard his phone ring, picked it up, and the next day he's practicing with the Maple Leafs. Most Canadian NHL teams, including Toronto, lean on U Sports goalies for emergency backup roles, and the likes of Garrett Forrest, Alex Bishop, Dalton Ewing, and Brendan Bonello could all see the time in the spotlight of Canada's most prominent hockey market this season.
With so many U Sports goalies potentially in the mix to get called up to the NHL at any moment, it keeps hockey fans on their toes. But even if one finds themselves into a game, they're far from washed up junior players. Keeping it in the OUA though, we've got a lot of thoughts heading into this year, and you gave us your thoughts as well. So David, we've got a few questions and some thoughts on some of the OUA teams this season.
It's pretty simple. We've got 4 questions taking a look at some of the players leading into the upcoming season. So Ben, I'll lead you with this. Who do you think is going to be the best goaltender in OUA men's hockey this season?
You see, for me, it has to be Luke Parasini of the Ryerson Rams. He basically dragged the Western Mustangs into the University Cup semifinals back in 2019-20 with a .933 save percentage through the OUA playoffs, and then got past the University of Saskatchewan in the quarterfinals. Even though he's usually below 900 in the regular season, he has 4 years of experience with Western and comes into a Rams team that is much more prepared in their own end.
For sure, I mean, I have to agree with you on that. Parasini is set for a huge year this season. And I mean, just last year when the OUA suspended play, Parasini actually signed a professional contract with the Reading Royals of the ECHL. However, that was before the Royals actually pulled out of the 2020-2021 season. While he never ended up suiting up with the Royals last year, he is set for a big season to once again prove that he is deserving of a professional hockey job following his last year in the OUA. He joins Ryerson, who already has a stronger blue line than Western, so I definitely think he's going to have a great year ahead of him.
And he had a fantastic year in the OHL as well back in his junior career. But with so many faces in the league this season and 2 classes of new recruits, Who do you see as a potential Rookie of the Year forward? I know Jonathan Jancis is one guy you had your eye on.
I know we've talked a lot about Jancis, and I think it's clear as day. I mean, the former Kitchener Rangers forward was one of the best goal scorers in the Ontario Hockey League during both the 2017-18 and 18-19 OHL seasons, and he is surely going to be given every opportunity to score with Queens.
And he's done well so far in preseason. I'm very excited to go see Jonathan Jancis tear up the OUA this season. But now let's get into the women's side of things. The University of Nipissing is poised for a big year, and they're going to be led by forward Maria Domenico.
Yeah, I mean, Domenico, I think she's going to hit the 20-point mark exactly this year. I mean, she's going to be the Lakers' top scorer on a team who, it's really hard to put your finger on what Nipissing has because they've got a lot of young talent, but they don't have that experience needed to really win a championship. I think Domenico is going to be that team's top scorer. However, led by head coach and former NHLer Darren Turcotte, I think her team's going to do well around her, but I don't think she's going to be able to pass that point-per-game plateau. The team around her is just not at that next step. They haven't taken that next step to actually develop. So I think her last year in the league is going to be a great one. She's easily going to be their top forward, but I just don't think they have what it takes.
And Maria Domenico, she's a very talented forward. I'm just not sure about the talent surrounding her. She's an extremely skilled player, but if we're looking to see whether she gets over or under the point-per-game mark in a 20-game season, I'm going to have to say that she's going to be lower. Darren Turcotte is dealing with a very young roster this season, with players such as Jordana Connors coming in, even with players out of province like Cameron Grooms coming in from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Now, moving on to another goaltender, I want to talk about Rachel Seeley. She is going to be the Rams starter once again this year. She's another veteran in her 5th year in the league, and again, she is poised for a breakout year. But Ben, do you think she is going to be nominated for the OUA's Top Goaltender Award?
You know, I would say she's right in the conversation to be nominated for the OUA's top goalie on the women's side of things. She stood out through her years with the Rams already. With an experienced defense core in front of her this season, she should be able to put up a high save percentage. But that being said, the Rams might not need big goaltending performances with all of their offensive talent this season.
Well, I mean, if they do need a big goaltending performance, they have it. I mean, just in 2019-20, she had, in 17 games played, a 1.76 goals against average and a .924 save percentage with an 11-4 record.
That's all we've got for our responses, but let's head over to Ben Botelho to hear what some of you had to say on social media. Ben?
Dave and Ben have given their thoughts, but some of you have answered our questions as well. For Kyle Cushman of the Nation Network, his eyes are drawn to UQTR's Justin Bergeron, who's coming in from winning a QMJHL championship, while the viewers picked up their former London Knight, now Toronto Varsity Blue, Billy Moscow as the best incoming recruit this year.
Definitely a lot of talented players coming into the league this season and a lot of potential in the OUA. But we'll be right back on OUA Hockey Zone.
Dear student athletes, it's been quite a while since we last saw you in action. Since you last played your sport with immense satisfaction. A while since trophies were raised or banners won. Since games were played or races run. Since you gave it your all out on the field, knowing full well what that effort could yield. Like buzzer beaters, game winners, and championship glory. Like a picture-perfect ending to your university story. It's been a while since there were school colors to don. And far too long since the sports you love have been gone. But with adversity comes resilience, with waiting, anticipation. And with this impending return, no doubt comes elation. But that overwhelming euphoria comes for good reason, as you anxiously await the start of the season. When last year was not to be and your sport you could not play, we know you were counting down to this long-awaited day. So after an emotional year that left you no choice but to persevere, the time for a triumphant return is finally here. It's time to drop the puck, to tee off, to take your mark, to step back in the spotlight and reignite that spirited spark. Because we now turn the page on that extended hiatus to get back to the passions that will forever elate us. And as the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. But after 18 gloomy months, we can finally say, game on.
Hey, I'm Joey Manchurik, forward for the Varsity Blues men's hockey team, and you're watching OUA Hockey Zone.
It has been a very difficult season for all 20 OUA members, but for some student athletes, stepping away from the game has actually been a bit of a welcome reprieve. For more on this, we go to Matthew Davison, standing by at Varsity Arena in downtown Toronto.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I'm here at Varsity Arena, the home of the Varsity Blues, where just in a few days' time, they'll take to the ice after a year and a half of not playing the game. And obviously the pandemic has affected us all, but an interesting name to look at when it comes to the OUA is the reigning male athlete of the year, David Thompson. He's a leader, he's a prolific scorer for the Varsity Blues, but it's really interesting what he discovered during the course of the pandemic. He really found out more about himself, his personality, his lifestyle, and discovered he's more than just a hockey player. Here's a closer look.
To get this out there and let other people know that it's okay and that there's help out there and you don't have to be in this darkness for your whole life, basically. Hi, I'm David Thompson, number 13, assistant captain of the Varsity Blues.
It was hard, but it was needed.
The first week or so was an adjustment for sure. I think overall, like the life differences in the South compared to Ontario was a little bit of a culture shock too.
Oh, he did well the first year, and he enjoyed it, and we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it because he was happy and he was thriving.
First exhibition game I play, wasn't even actually supposed to play that exhibition game, but there was a Division I school coming to watch me specifically, and so I went in and played the game, and it was kind of a nothing play, but it was on a back check. I go to make a hit, the guy cuts the net, losing an edge, and it's kind of football injury where he kind of takes my knee out at the side.
An exhibition game, a decision. He tore his ACL, and we didn't know the extent, how bad it was until I got the call from his coach.
I can't even explain it. It was just, it's hard to talk about.
As a mother, the hardest thing to see your child go through.
Day was kind of a pity party a little bit. Me and my mom were just kind of like, it was just a somber type mood at my house. Like me, my mom, my dad were just kind of like almost staring off into space for the whole day, and I just kind of like said, like, I basically said to both of them, I'm like, okay, well, today we can feel sorry, but tomorrow, like, I gotta get back on this road to recovery.
He always said, if he was gonna play in Canada, he'd want to play at U of T.
I visited all the the gym, the Gold Ring, came to the rink, saw the campus. I basically would have committed to him on the spot, but I'm like, I should probably go talk to my parents first, and they were like, yeah, you got it. So
I remember he came in and he was like, hi, I'm David. I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Kyle, and he's like, I remember playing against you growing up. I'm like, yeah, I remember playing against you too. And then it kind of just took off from there. And then
we became really, really close friends in first year. We've shared a lot of personal things with each other, and he's honestly been like a rock for me.
It was hard for me to understand exactly what he was going through, and I wish I could have helped more back then. But I'm glad that I can be here for him now.
Now is a great a time as ever to go and seek out help.
Thompson picks off the pass. David Thompson works in. Between the legs, he scores! David Thompson with a highlight reel goal, and it's 8-3 for the Varsity Blues.
It's been far from an easy year, and for David Thompson, he's faced immense challenges throughout his career so far to this day. But the reigning 2019-20 OUA Men's Player of the Year has professional aspirations, so keep an eye out for the extended cut of our David Thompson feature coming up November 3rd.
We've gone over our top 5 teams. We have an idea of the players to watch and what programs are really going to be in it to win it this year. But looking a bit closer, this season is a defining one for many programs. So Ben, the University of Ottawa made it all the way to the Queen's Cup final in 2020, but they've got a very young, rebuilt group this season. Do you think that it is a disappointment, per se, if they don't make it to the postseason?
I think it is, to be honest. With a prepared coach like Pat Gromatier behind the bench and a stellar recruiting class coming in, they should make the playoffs. I have them in my top 5 teams after all. But that's not to say that if they miss the playoffs that it would be a complete disaster. It would just be a bit of a disappointment. This will be a growing year for the GGs, and they probably aren't championship quality just yet, but they're well on their way, and it could be extremely disappointing if they find themselves on the outside looking in come playoff time.
I mean, I have to disagree with you just a little bit. I think that with such a young team in front of them, I just think that it's going to take time for the team to really gel all together.
One of the intriguing things every year about the OUA is having the Quebec teams in the mix, and this year we almost have a pseudo-Quebec division, in addition to Carleton and Ottawa. But if UQTR, is it a bust if they don't beat out McGill and Concordia to be the best team from Quebec?
You know, if you asked me this in past years, I'd say yes, but this year I have to say no. While there are some stellar incoming players like Justin Bergeron, the Patriots have to adjust to life without Sebastian Auger, who has been one of the OUA's best goaltenders. It's an adjustment year for UQTR, and I also do think that McGill will take a step up with new head coach Dave Urquhart. So I think really it's just going to be too close to call this year. Moving on, there has been a lot of hype surrounding the Ryerson Rams this year, with many believing that this is actually their year. Ben, do you think that it would be a bust, so to say, if they do not clinch a berth to the finals this year?
Personally, I would have to say it's not a bust if they don't make the playoffs this year, or the finals this year, because when it comes to team sports, especially hockey, playoffs are a completely different game than the regular season. No matter how good your team is, I don't think you can call a season a bust if you don't make it all the way to that final game.
I have to agree with you there. I mean, hockey is the ultimate team sport, and it's more about how many superstars you have on your roster.
Brock is definitely a team that's going to have a lot of eyes following them this season on the women's side. With such an intriguing and exciting roster, would it be a bust if they don't make it to the postseason this year?
Well, it would definitely be a major disappointment for Cassidy Maplethorpe, to say the least. I mean, Brock has had 2 strong years right before the pandemic, and they were primed for their best ever chance to win a championship last season. So I really think this year is going to be a redemption year, and especially losing Annie Berg to Ryerson, this is Maplethorpe's biggest chance to bring the cup to Niagara.
And Maplethorpe's certainly done well in her time with the Brock Badgers, but with predictions, there's only one thing we can really wait for, and that's puck drop and for games to actually happen. It's a 20-game sprint this season, and it all starts on November 3rd.
Now, taking a look at the upcoming games, the McGill Redbirds visit the Concordia Stingers at Ed Meager Arena to kick things off before the RMC Paladins make their way across town to take on local Kingston rivals, the Queens Gales.
And if you're taking a look at the Queens Gales team, you have a lot of talent. We spoke about Jonathan Yancis, but we have some other OHL talent on that roster, including a guy like Jake Brahini, who captained the Kingston Frontenacs in 2019-20, and he also played with Shane Wright, who's probably going to go first overall in the NHL draft. So there's definitely a lot to go with Jake Brahini on the blue lines for the Queens Gales. What do you see Jake Brahini bringing to the Queens Gales this year?
I think he's going to be probably the team's best player. I mean, I know they have Jonathan Yancis. I know we've spoken a lot about him, but I really think having Brahini on that blue line is going to be what propels them to the playoffs. And if they do well, it's going to be because of him.
And there's a few other teams as well that are going to be right in the mix, and the Ontario Tech Ridgebacks are one of those teams, and a guy like Kelton Hatcher is going to be integral to them.
For sure. I mean, you also have to talk about Cullen McLean as well, and I really think that with those 2 new recruits, they just have that talent that you know what, I almost feel like they're a team that people are just counting out, and I really don't think that's the case because they are going to make an impact.
Opening day is just over a week away now as things start to get very real for the staff and student athletes of OUA Hockey. Preseason's gone by quickly, and for Ben Botelho, David Ciss, Matt Davison, and myself, thank you for tuning into OUA Hockey Zone and enjoy the season.